the old part of town, because the stones are 2 centuries old. You pointed names above the doors and tell me stories you've been told. You say the tower survived the war, the bridge was built in '89. You touch the wall with reverence, as though you've reached the edge of time. I shouldn't smile, I know, but darling, I remember this was a forest. Before the avenues, before the lights, before a million windows tried to make a second daylight. I remember when this was a forest, when the moon had room to reach the ground. You called the city ancient. I remember when there wasn't any town. A stream beneath that street, it froze completely every year. Where taxis wait beneath the rain, I watched a wounded red deer. There were wolves beyond the hill, long before the railway came. And somewhere underneath your feet there was a path that had no name. No cathedral, no hotel, no monuments to victories, just winter trees and hungry things and me. I've watched the first foundations laid, I've watched the final walls come down. I've seen a palace become a bank, a battlefield become downtown. I've watched your statues change their names, your heroes fall from marble graves. Every generation swears the world begins within its age. King said that empires too, they sounded very certain. You do too. Before the smoke, before men drew a line across the earth and killed each other for the strength. I remember when this was a forest, and I remember what came next. Every age believes itself immortal. That's what makes immortality so interesting. Don't misunderstand me, I like what you have made. Electric light is wonderful, and central heating is a triumph. I have absolutely no desire to romanticize the plague. Your coffee improved enormously, your plumbing even more. And I prefer an elevator to 7 flights of stairs, but sometimes near 4 in the morning when the traffic finally dies. I can almost hear the branches fall one breath. The glass disappears, the asphalt breaks, the towers fade. 800 years collapse into the smell of rain, and there it is, the forest waiting underneath everything. I remember when this was a forest, and one night it may be one again. Not tomorrow, not in your lifetime, maybe not for love this little piece of time. I do, but don't